Very good evening and welcome to News Tonight on Rajya Sabha Television, where we get a complete roundup of the day's top stories. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Home Minister Amit Shah and senior officials today to discuss the way forward as the coronavirus lockdown, which has already been extended thrice, ends on Sunday. The meet comes amid the steady rise in coronavirus cases in the country. That big story and much more coming up in the next 30 minutes. The top story this evening, just 2 days before the end of the fourth phase of the lockdown on 31st of May, Home Minister Amit Shah met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday. Shah apprised Modi about the views of all chief ministers on the extension of the ongoing nationwide lockdown beyond 31st of May. During his talks with the chief ministers, Amit Shah had sought to know the areas of concern of the states and the sectors they want to open up further from the 1st of June. It is understood that a majority of the chief ministers wanted the lockdown to continue in some form, but also favoured opening up of the economic activities and gradual return to normal life. The central government is expected to announce its decision on the lockdown within the next 2 days. And in the other top story of the day, India's GDP growth stood at 4.2% for the fiscal year 2019-20. The economy grew at 3.1% in Q4 or the last quarter. Agriculture and mining sectors showed marked improvement. The better-than-expected data surpassed most estimates that were made amid the unprecedented disruptions caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Here are the details.
India's GDP stood at 3.1% in the January to March 2020 quarter. For the entire fiscal, the GDP was 4.2%. India's GDP growth was revised to 4.1% in October to December 2019-20 and 6.1% in 2018-19. The agriculture sector grew at 5.9% in quarter 4 compared to 1.6% in the same quarter a year ago. Growth in the mining sector was 5.2% compared to minus 4.8% last year. The manufacturing sector contracted by 1.4% as compared to a growth of 2.1% year on year. The construction sector also registered a falling growth of 2.2% as compared to 6% last year. The GDP growth in the fourth quarter assumes significance as it includes the figures for 1 week of lockdown. It is also expected that the figures will determine the impact of the pandemic more clearly. Although the GDP growth estimates have surpassed most estimates made by various economists and rating agencies, the government has left a caveat that the figures can be revised as the current data is insufficient. Preeti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
And India witnessed its biggest single-day spike of over 7,486 COVID-19 cases on Friday. The numbers took it past Turkey to make it the 9th worst COVID-19 affected country. The surge in the COVID-19 numbers comes just days ahead of the scheduled close of the fourth phase of the lockdown on 31st of May. 7,466 fresh cases on Friday have taken the total number of coronavirus cases in India to 1,65,799. 175 deaths were registered on Friday, the third highest number in a single day. The number of fatalities due to the coronavirus infection climbed to 4,706, while the number of active coronavirus patients stood at 89,987. Recoveries have gone up to 42.89% from Thursday's 42.75%. Most of India's COVID-19 cases were reported from Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Delhi and Gujarat. Maharashtra has 59,546 COVID-19 cases. 1,982 people have died in the western state so far. In Tamil Nadu, 19,372 people contracted the disease and 145 people have died. Gujarat has 15,562 infections and 960 deaths so far. In Delhi, Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia said the COVID-19 death tally has jumped by 82 in the last 24 hours after 69 deaths that were reported late were added to the tally. He said 13 deaths took place on Friday. The remaining 69 were reported in the last 34 days. Total COVID-19 deaths in Delhi are 398 so far. The national capital reported the biggest single-day surge in cases on Thursday. With 1,024 new cases, total cases are 16,281. According to the government, there are 13 cities constituting 70% of COVID-19 positive cases in the country, including Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Thane, Pune, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Indore, Jaipur, Jodhpur, Chengalpattu and Tiruvallur in Tamil Nadu. In a review meeting with the representatives of these 13 cities on Thursday, Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba said the cities will continue to see the restrictions similar to those clamped in containment zones. As India's COVID-19 infection tally continues to climb, the government on Thursday said that the country's pharmaceutical industry, which is also one of the world's best, is aggressively trying to develop a vaccine at the earliest, raising the cost substantially to $2 to $3 billion.
According to Principal Scientific Advisor K. Vijayaraghavan, there are over 100 vaccines being developed worldwide and at least 30 attempts in India. These include efforts where India is participating in global attempts and some partnerships among Indian academia and industry.
Instead of working on one vaccine and seeing whether it works over a 10-year period and investing on that, we have to invest on 100 vaccines. The world is investing on more than 100 vaccines at the same time. Simultaneously, we have to go fast on the regulatory process without compromising quality. And we have to have manufacturing capabilities expanded while not compromising on our standard immunization program.
While designing drugs to combat COVID-19 is challenging, the government has adopted 3 approaches for drug discovery. The first approach is repurposing existing drugs. The second is testing extracts from herbal and medicinal plants, while the third is using a variety of approaches for new drug discovery, including a hackathon for computational drug discovery.
The CSIR and the AICTE have embarked on a drug discovery hackathon. Now, this is not a routine kind of hackathon. This is a very high-end hackathon where students are trained with information on how to do computational drug discovery, and they will get access to the expensive computational tools to design drugs. And once certain candidates look good computationally and having a right fit, they can then be taken through startups in partnership with CSR through laboratory routes to test.
The government, however, admitted that even after a vaccine is available, ensuring its access to all would remain a challenge. Until that time, hygiene, decontamination of surfaces, physical distancing, tracking and testing remain the top tools to fight against COVID-19.
It is not like a switch which will be available to everyone on day one. This disease is such unusual compared to other vaccine preventable diseases, where people from the youngest to the oldest will need a vaccine, and people in every kind of country in the world will need a vaccine.
According to the World Health Organization, 10 vaccine candidates from around the world have entered the human trial stage and 115 are in pre-clinical evaluation stage or pre-human trial stage. As of now, US biotechnology company Moderna Inc. and China's CanSino Biologics Inc. have reported successful results in human trials. The WHO's list of firms from India involved in developing a vaccine include the Serum Institute of India, Zydus Cadila, Indian Immunologicals Limited and Bharat Biotech. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now an update on the Vande Bharat mission. And Air India will operate repatriation flights to 6 more countries under phase 2 of the government's Vande Bharat mission. Air India said it will operate flights to the US, New Zealand, the UK, Sweden, Germany and South Korea to bring back stranded Indians amid the novel coronavirus pandemic. The national carrier has also announced a Delhi to Auckland flight on the 4th of June. The flight from Delhi to Chicago and Stockholm will operate on the 5th of June. The national carrier said it will run flights on the Delhi-New York route, the Delhi-Frankfurt route and the Delhi-Seoul route on the 6th of June. On Friday, special Air India flights brought back stranded Indian nationals from Kazakhstan, Sri Lanka, Armenia, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, UAE and Saudi Arabia. The second phase of the repatriation program started on the 16th of May and will continue till 13th of June.
Got my tickets finally yesterday and then I managed to go to it. I hope I'll get back home soon and I'm really excited to meet my family and my parents there, my friends, everyone is there. They're very much tense about this whole journey, but I hope I'll get through with it very soon and I'm really looking forward to get back to Sri Lanka for another visit probably next year.
And between 1st to 28th of May, Indian Railways has run 3,840 Shramik special trains during the lockdown. These trains have taken over 52 lakh stranded migrants to their home states. Chairman of Railway Board V.K. Yadav said 42% migrants have been ferried to Uttar Pradesh, while 37% have been transported to Bihar. 90% trains have run with an average speed higher than normal mail express trains, while only 4 trains have been delayed. Many facilities are being provided to the migrants on these trains as per protocol. State governments are providing food and water at starting stations, and IRCTC and railway divisions is arranging free meals and water en route free of cost. The Railway Board has requested passengers with health conditions like cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, hypertension, as well as pregnant women, children and elderly to avoid travel.
3,840 श्रमिक स्पेशल ट्रेनें आज 28 मई तक चली हैं और करीब 52 लाख पैसेंजर जा चुके हैं। और अगर पिछले एक हफ्ते का अगर आप एवरेज देखें तो 1524 श्रमिक स्पेशल ट्रेन और करीब 20 लाख पैसेंजर एक हफ्ते में गए हैं। तो पिछला जो एक हफ्ता था उसमें हमने करीब 3 लाख प्रतिदिन के हिसाब से प्रवासी श्रमिक भाइयों और बहनों को उनको गंतव्य स्थान तक पहुंचाया। हमने ओरिजिनेटिंग स्टेट से ये अनुरोध किया है और उनके कंटिन्यूअस टच में है कि वो लोग वहाँ पे जो लोकल श्रमिक भाई बहन रह रहे हैं उन तक पहुँचें, उनसे बात करें, पब्लिसाइज करें और रजिस्ट्रेशन की प्रक्रिया सुगम करें और ये देखें कि जो भी श्रमिक भाई बहन अपने गंतव्य स्थान पे श्रमिक स्पेशल से जाना चाहते हैं उनका जल्दी से जल्दी रजिस्ट्रेशन हो और वो अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट हमको बताएं और इस तरह से हम तुरंत एक दिन के अंदर वो ट्रेन चला देंगे।
Meanwhile, the government on Thursday removed restrictions on the export of popular drug paracetamol.
The Directorate General of Foreign Trade issued a notification in this regard. More than 2 months ago, the raw material of the common fever medication as well as 12 other active pharmaceutical ingredients or APIs and formulations made from them were not allowed to be exported by the government amid the COVID-19 outbreak. In April, the government had removed the curbs on shipments of formulations made from paracetamol. Now it has removed restrictions on paracetamol APIs as well. API is the active ingredient that is present in the medicine.
And news from Uttar Pradesh. In a major step towards creating jobs for migrant workers in Uttar Pradesh, the Yogi Adityanath government on Friday signed initial agreements with various industry bodies to help in providing 11 lakh jobs to the migrant labourers. These labourers have returned to the state in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic.
The Yogi Adityanath government on Friday signed initial agreements with various industry bodies to help in providing 11 lakh jobs to migrant labourers. These labourers have returned to the state in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. The Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry or FICCI and the Indian Industries Association or IIA accounted for 3 lakh jobs each, while Nardeco and Laghu Udyog Bharati accounted for 2.5 lakh jobs each. CII has asked for 2 lakh workers. State MSME Minister Siddharth Nath Singh said some states considered Uttar Pradesh labourers a liability, but Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has turned them into assets. Singh said his department has set up a control room for migrant labourers and ensured payment of dues running into 1,700 crore rupees for workers of 75,000 units.
हर हाथ को कार्य मिल सके, हर घर में रोजगार उपलब्ध हो सके, इस दृष्टि से सरकार कार्य कर रही है और उस कार्रवाई को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए ही मैं धन्यवाद दूंगा कि इसमें सहयोग करने के लिए यहाँ पर इंडियन इंडस्ट्रीज एसोसिएशन, फिक्की, लघु उद्योग भारती और नार्डेको जैसे संस्थाओं ने अपनी रुचि दिखाई है। रुचि दिखाने के साथ ही इन्होंने लगभग आज हमें यहाँ पे 11 लाख कामगार और श्रमिकों को उपलब्ध कराने की एक सूची हमें उपलब्ध कराई है कि इतने लोगों को ये लोग व्यवस्थित रूप से अपने अलग अलग उद्यम में, अलग अलग फील्ड के कार्यों में रोजगार और नौकरी उपलब्ध करवाने की कार्रवाई करेंगे।
And now an update on the global coronavirus pandemic. The world is opening up as the countries gradually emerge from life under lockdown. Tokyo will enter phase 2 of the looser restrictions on Monday. Schools, tutoring centers, gyms, theaters, malls and other non-essential retail locations will now be allowed to reopen, even as restaurants are advised to close at 10 p.m. Japan lifted the state of emergency for the entire nation on the 25th of May. On Friday, Spain approved a guaranteed minimum income scheme for around 850,000 households who are at the risk of poverty due to the pandemic. Spain will continue to further relax its measures from Monday, allowing outdoor gatherings of up to 15 people, some restaurant service indoors, and opening of stores, cinemas and museums with limited capacity. In France, beaches, restaurants and parks will be allowed to reopen across the country in the coming weeks. In regions designated safe, primary, middle as well as high school children will be allowed to resume classes from the 2nd of June. Cinemas will also be allowed to reopen from 22nd of June. Germany is allowing pubs and fitness studios to reopen from Monday. Open-air events including concerts and film screenings will also start from 2nd of June, while indoor cinemas will be allowed to reopen on 30th of June with strict hygienic measures. The UK will start lifting more restrictions on Monday. Schools across the UK are preparing to reopen some classes next week. On Thursday, the Premier League announced that the season will restart on 17th of June, provided all safety requirements are put in place, while Italy's football championship, Serie A, will restart on 20th of June. Thailand will shorten curfew hours and ease restrictions on more businesses next week. From 1st of June, cinemas and theatres can reopen with a capacity of 200 people at a time and appropriate social distancing. Philippines too is set to further ease lockdown measures from Monday, allowing most businesses to open. Singapore has installed vending machines dispensing free reusable face masks across the island to contain the spread of the new coronavirus. Across the world, the COVID-19 pandemic has claimed over 362,600 lives. The virus has infected over 5.9 million people so far. Moving on in the bulletin, the worst locust attack in North India, swarms of desert locusts have affected as many as 100 districts in 5 states, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh. At least 7 districts of Haryana and adjoining national capital Delhi are on high alert.
Authorities have issued alerts in Delhi, Haryana, Telangana, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab and even Karnataka on the possibility of these crop-eating insects entering their territories. On Thursday, the Delhi government issued an advisory to officials across various districts to prepare for a potential locust attack. This was after the centre warned of a high chance that the crop-munching insects will move from parts of Madhya Pradesh towards Delhi. Authorities have also been directed to spray insecticides and pesticides on crops and vegetation. A campaign was organized on Friday to create awareness among farmers to prevent a potential attack in Delhi. In neighbouring Haryana too, 7 districts are bracing for an invasion by locust swarms. In Uttar Pradesh, multiple teams have been formed and control rooms established to track the movement of the locusts. A 5-member committee has also been appointed in Telangana to keep a tab on the movement of the locusts and also to monitor measures to prevent the swarms from entering the state. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization has warned that these locusts could also reach eastwards towards Bihar and Odisha in the coming weeks.
And now the weather update. Rainfall and storm brought a respite to many parts of India that were reeling under an intense heat wave in recent weeks. On Friday, light rain accompanied with a thunderstorm and strong winds hit parts of the Delhi National Capital Region, leading to a drop in temperature by a few notches. The minimum temperature was recorded at 23 degrees Celsius and maximum was around 36 degrees Celsius. Rainfall lashed Chandigarh and its surrounding areas, bringing some relief from soaring temperatures. Adjoining towns of Mohali in Punjab also witnessed showers. In Haryana, Panchkula had rainfall, while parts of Rewari received rain coupled with hailstorm. On Friday, the India Meteorological Department said a low-pressure area over the Arabian Sea may concentrate into a depression over the next 24 hours and is likely to intensify further. It has also issued an orange alert for Kerala's Idukki district, which could receive heavy rainfall over the weekend. The southwest monsoon is likely to make an onset over Kerala on the 1st of June. In some international news, American President Donald Trump on Friday signed an executive order aimed at removing some of the legal protections given to the social media platforms. He said these firms had unchecked power to censor and edit the views of users. The order comes after Twitter decided to append fact-check labels to 2 of his tweets this week. On Wednesday, Trump accused the company of election interference after the social media platform added a warning label to his tweets, in which Trump claimed that mail-in ballots would be fraudulent and result in a rigged election. Twitter and other social media platforms strongly condemned the executive order, and the order is expected to face legal challenges. Meanwhile, just hours after signing the executive order, Twitter also hid a tweet from Trump accusing him of breaking its rules by glorifying violence after he tweeted that looters at protests in Minneapolis would be shot. The International Day of UN Peacekeeping is being observed on Friday internationally. The theme for this year's day is Women in Peacekeeping, a Key to Peace. It is intended at marking the 20th anniversary of the adoption of UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. The day offers a chance to pay tribute to the uniformed and civilian personnel's invaluable contribution to the work of the organization. It honors over 3,900 peacekeepers who lost their lives serving under the UN flag since 1948. India's armed forces have contributed to UN peacekeeping operations with experience and professionalism. Speaking at the September 2015 Leaders Summit in New York, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the foundations of the United Nations were laid by the brave soldiers on the battlefields of the Second World War. By 1945, they included 2.5 million men of the Indian Army, the largest volunteer force in history. More than 2 lakh Indian troops have served in 49 of the 71 UN PKOs deployed so far. This year, the challenges and threats faced by our peacekeepers are even greater than ever. They are not only having to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic, but also providing support and protection to people in the countries they are based in. Former Rajya Sabha member and former Union Minister MP Virendra Kumar passed away late Thursday night. He was 83 and had been suffering from age-related illnesses for some time.
An acclaimed political leader, Virendra Kumar was elected to the Kerala State Assembly and the Lok Sabha multiple times. He played a key role in floating the Janata Party in the 1970s and headed the Janata Dal United in Kerala for a long time. As an active socialist leader in Kerala, he was also arrested and spent time in jail during the emergency. He also served as a minister in both the H.D. Devagowda and I.K. Gujral governments. MP Virendra Kumar was also a writer and orator. He authored several books. His book Himalayan Odyssey won the Sahitya Academy Award and was later translated into many languages. He became a director of Mathrubhumi in the late 1970s and also the chairperson of the group. He was also closely associated with the Indian Newspaper Society and the Press Trust of India. President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, BJP President JP Nadda, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, and a host of other leaders condoled the demise of the veteran socialist leader. In a Twitter message, President Ramnath Kovind expressed condolences to his family and well-wishers. Describing him as a staunch socialist, the President wrote that Virendra Kumar enriched the field of journalism and literature by leading the influential newspaper Mathrubhumi. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu described him as a great leader and a true patriot who was always deeply committed to the cause of the deprived and the marginalized. Prime Minister Narendra Modi too expressed anguish at the passing away of MP Virendra Kumar. In a Twitter message he wrote, and I quote, "He distinguished himself as an effective legislator and parliament. He believed in giving voice to the poor and underprivileged. Condolences to his family and well-wishers."
Former Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Ajit Jogi died on Friday after being hospitalized in Raipur following a heart attack. The 74-year-old had been in hospital for nearly 3 weeks. His son Amit Jogi made the announcement on Twitter. Ajit Jogi's last rites will be performed at his native Gorela in Bilaspur district on Saturday. The former Congress leader became the first Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh when the state was born in 2000 till December 4, 2003. He exited the Congress in 2016 and went on to form the Janta Congress Chhattisgarh J. President Ramnath Kovind condoled the death of Ajit Jogi. The president said that Ajit Jogi was an able administrator known for promoting development of the state and its people. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu expressed his sadness over the sudden demise of Ajit Jogi, who was also a former member of parliament. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also condoled Ajit Jogi's death. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said that Ajit Jogi was passionate about public service. Modi further added that Jogi strived to bring a positive change in the lives of the poor, especially tribal communities. Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel announced a 3-day state mourning in the memory of the first leader of the state. Ajit Jogi will be cremated with full state honours. Mourning the loss, Baghel said that Ajit Jogi will live on in the memories of all the people of the state. And with that, we wrap up this edition of News Tonight. Stay home, stay safe, take care of yourself and your families. Good night.
Thank you.